I guess so.
Yeah, it looks like they just arrived and got at their table. I was just walking back. Are you ready? All rise. The District Court of San Andreas is in session. The Honorable Judge Jacques Mann is presiding.
Hello, everyone. This is the State of San Andreas versus Serafina Cifaretto, 21-16070. Judge Jacques Mann presiding with the Honorable Scotty White co-presiding. Are both sides ready to proceed?
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
Could I have a request a 5-minute recess?
Sure. We will go into recess for 5 minutes, I guess.
What?
Okay, Your Honor. I think we're ready if you are.
Okay. Defense, are you ready?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Could the prosecution read the charges?
Yes, Your Honor. Bear with me one moment while I pull out my clip.
I mean, we had 5 minutes, right?
All right, Your Honor. One account, PC 2302, possession of a Class 2 illegal firearm. PC 3304, failure to inform of concealed weapon. PC 2306, possession of a firearm by a convicted violent felon.
Okay. How does the defendant plea?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Okay, the court recognizes the plea of not guilty. We move forward to trial. Okay, could the prosecution begin with introductions?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honors and people of the court, this was just a simple traffic stop that turned into something bigger than what it was intended. The defendant was simply pulled over for speeding, and upon going forward and reviewing her license plate and looking up there and find out that she is a convicted violent felon, they proceed to ask her a question. Senior Detective Mac McLane proceeded to ask her if she had any weapons in her car, which she said no. And for his safety, they asked to search or to frisk the vehicle. Now, in that situation there, or to frisk her, she then stepped out, and Trooper Ward approached her as she was coming around towards Trooper Ward, and Trooper Ward explained to her that he wanted to do a frisk or a pat down. He asked her, and she said she did not want to do she didn't consent to any form of search. And Trooper Ward then rebutted and asked if she would if she'd be fine with just an outer body pat down, explain that. The pat down then realized that the pat down then was discovered that she had a submachine gun or a machine pistol, is what was found on her. Upon that, then the defendant simply was upset that that was found on her and said that she was searched illegally. Unfortunately, without understanding, that resulted in her being arrested. Today, Your Honor, we're going to discuss the matters that the fact is that without a shadow of a doubt, upon this Terry frisk, the defendant is going to be shown without a shadow of a doubt be guilty of all 3 charges.
Okay. Defense?
Permission to move about?
Go ahead.
So today, Miss Serafina is here in court facing 3 charges that simply are not true. She was pulled over, as the prosecution stated, for a simple traffic infraction on a vehicle she owned. However, the prosecution, as they so eloquently stated, were a little bit incorrect in what they just stated in their opening statement. She was pulled over for allegedly running a red light. This was not a speeding infraction. This was nothing of that nature. They have pointed out in trying to defame my client, stating that she isn't a violent convicted felon. Regardless of if that is true or not, people still have rights. She was illegally searched when clearly stated she did not consent to a search. And as a result, absolutely everything found in her possession or on her is in fact deemed, and we will show today, fruit of the poison tree. These charges cannot hold true simply because of the fact that her rights as a human, not as the prosecution has stated, a violent convicted felon, as a human, were encroached upon and violated. The officers told her that they were doing one thing, did another, and then covered their tracks. This is gross negligence on the part of the PD, and my client should not be the one that has to bear the repercussions for their actions.
Okay, the prosecution call their first witness.
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to call to the stand Mac McLane.
Sir, can you raise both of your hands? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Hello there, Deputy Marshal McLean. How are you doing today?
Outstanding, sir. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. All right then. Now, if I may ask you, Deputy Marshal.
Sorry, could I ask Mr. McLean please stand? I'm sorry, I can't see him.
Okay. All right then. Well,
Excuse me, Mr. Watson. Mr. McLean, can you please stand up?
Yeah.
Just to
I'm sorry, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
how long have you served the law enforcement departments? That'd be from sheriff's office to where you are now.
I've been a law enforcement marshals in the state of law enforcement officer in the state of San Andreas since February of this year.
Okay. And Deputy Marshal, is this situation that happened on this day, on the 23rd of August? Is this something common that happens? I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. My apologies. When you do a traffic stop for a convicted violent felon, is this something you're familiar with?
I'm familiar with making traffic stops of people that are convicted violent felons, yes.
Alrighty. And is that you in exhibits 3, 5, 6, or 22?
1 moment. 3, 5, 6, and 22. Yes, I am the one depicted wearing the sheriff's office or sheriff's department patrol uniform.
Okay. Alrighty. Would you mind, for the court, going through that, summarizing that situation that happened on the 23rd of August, that traffic stop?
Yes, on the early morning hours of August 23rd.
Objection narrative.
Prosecution, do you have any argument?
I just want the witness to be able to account what happened in his situation from his perspective.
Could you rephrase the question, Mr.
Yes, Your Honor. Okay. Deputy Marshal, what happened on the 23rd day of August at that traffic stop?
It was
Objection,
around,
narrative.
Give me one moment. Okay, that motion is going to be sustained. Mr. Blackstone, can you please go and not ask narrative questions?
Yes, Your Honor. All right then. Deputy Marshal, what did you ask the defendant when you approached the car?
when I first approached the vehicle, I introduced myself and asked.
Objection, narrative.
Your Honor, I'm simply asking what he had experienced when he just approached the car. It's not a lengthy story. It's simply what he did when he first approached the car.
I'm gonna let the question go. Let's see where it goes.
Is that overruled then, Your Honor?
Yeah. Sorry, I thought I said it. Mr. McClay, can you continue?
I introduced myself and asked her for her license and any paperwork for the vehicle.
All right. Is this typical for a traffic stop?
Yes.
Okay. All right then. So after she provided you that information, what did you do next?
I made some polite conversation with the driver, informed her of the reason for the stop, and then I also asked the passenger for his name as well.
All right then. All right, so after the introductions and getting the information you needed, how did you come about finding the identity of the defendant?
The defendant handed me her driver's license, and I was able to identify her via that and running her in our mobile data terminal.
Okay. After running her through your mobile data terminal, what happened next?
When I ran both the driver and the passenger,
This is
through the
also
MDT,
narrative. Objection.
Sustained. Mr. Blackstone, please.
Can we not have narrative questions, please?
Yes.
Deputy Marshal, what led you to go forward with asking her, or let me ask this better question. What led to asking her if she had weapons in her car?
Also
I asked
narrative.
every person on the
Objection.
traffic stop.
Your Honor, that is not a narrative. I am simply asking him what led him to go forward with asking to sir if she had a weapon in her vehicle.
Okay, give me a minute. I'm gonna talk with Mr. White about how to continue with this. That's going to be overruled. Mr. McLean, you can continue.
On every traffic stop that I conduct, I always ask if there are any weapons in the vehicle.
How did she respond?
She said no, there were no weapons in the vehicle.
Okay. Right, let's see here. What led her to leave the vehicle?
I asked for consent to search the vehicle. She granted consent to search the vehicle, so I asked both the driver and the passenger to step out of the vehicle.
All right. Did you find any weapons in the car?
After they had both exited the vehicle, we searched the car. There were no weapons located in the car.
Okay. Alrighty. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. The defense may approach.
Hello, how are you today?
Outstanding, sir. How about yourself?
Great. You mind stating your name again for the court?
Mac McLane.
I'm Mr. McLean. I am Public Defense Attorney Teddy Roberts. Met many times. It's good to see you today.
Back at you, sir.
So, Mr. McLean, I can't help but noticing that you are, in fact, wearing a body camera today. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you yourself opted into the body cam program?
Yes, sir.
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
There's no relevance to the cross-examination.
There is. He was at the scene.
Okay. What does it have to do with any of my questions I asked? Or anything that he has said so far?
He's testifying to something that happened at a crime, alleged crime
it's
scene.
It's gonna be overruled, Mr. Blackstone. Teddy, you can continue.
Thank you. So, Ms. McLean, how long have you been opted into the body cam program?
I'm not sure the date that it was announced, but it was within the first couple days of the program being instituted that I opted into it.
Okay. So, is it fair to say you have been opted in for a long enough period of time that on the given date of the offense, you were opted in?
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay. I can't help but notice, Your Honor, that there is no evidence showing Mr. McLean's perspective. Were you, in fact, running your body camera that day, sir?
I'm sorry, was that directed at the judge or me?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Relevance is he was at the crime scene.
Your Honor, the rebuttal to that is that defense never subpoenaed for Mr. McLean's body cam.
I'm simply asking a question.
Which we object to with relevance, Your Honor.
Must sustain. Teddy, please ask another question.
Sure. No worries. So on that given day, you identified yourself wearing a sheriff's garb. I'm sorry for the terminology, uniform. Is that correct?
Yes, I was wearing my sheriff's patrol uniform, yes.
Okay. Does that
I'll go
allow
off duty.
does that allow for the body cam to attach to it?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Ms. Roberts, do you have a...
Simple yes or no question.
Objection. Relevance.
Your Honor, he's trying to beat around the bush of the question.
Yeah, I'm a sustain.
Okay. So on that given day, looking through your testimony, do you recall my client consenting to any search?
Yes.
Because I'm actually looking at your testimony right now, and it says you are in fact unsure if she testified to that. Could you explain now how, after so many weeks, you have become more certain that she consented to this?
Sure, I'd be happy to explain that. If you look at the report that I wrote, you'll see in there where it says, I believe I heard her say. I did not say I was uncertain or I was unsure. I said, I believe that I heard this.
So a belief is now certainty, sir?
I hold my beliefs very close to me. I would hope you do too.
So the fact of the matter is, you believed you heard her consent on that day. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Not that you're certain, which is what you just stated in court. Is that correct?
I stated yes to your question in court.
No, you stated yes to the fact that you were certain that she had agreed to a search.
Correct. Now we're on the same page, except it wasn't a search, it was a frisk.
That's not the question I asked you. Motion to dismiss this evidence and this witness as a result of he just perjured himself on the stand.
Objection, Your Honor.
He just perjured himself on the stand.
You asked him the same question in circles. He answered your question.
In multiple different ways, and his testimony, Your Honor, states differently. His testimony and his written statement state differently. This man has perjured himself.
Give the court will go into recess for 1 minute while Mr. White and I discuss.
Dang, that was spicy.
Oh shit, was I late on that?
That hurt my ears.
I don't care if they hate me, but if
So,
we can get his
what
testimony
do you
thrown out,
think
this
to
is
that? Because that was a
good step in the right
spicy cross-examination. I mean, I completely agree that obviously if his written statement and testimony, and then his, stood on the dock.
My guess is they're going to come back
Don't
to that.
line up, then yeah, technically he perjured himself on the dock.
I will admit that it is very difficult for an officer when they do write a statement or an incident report to put in things like I believe or I think. It really just should be the facts. Like the person was frisked. This
Yeah.
is what we found.
Okay, we're going to deny that motion.
Yeah.
Ms. Roberts, you may reapproach.
The questioning went around in circles.
If you wish to reapproach.
Good try though.
Your Honor, permission to approach the bench.
Go ahead. Let's come over here.
You're now allowing people who perjure themselves continue?
Oh, Teddy's not happy with that.
Well, no, they don't need to come. This is something I'm talking to you guys about.
I mean, surely, if you
you
were
can't
to
speak
court,
to one
you would
part.
read
Ex
through your
parte
testimony,
communication.
and you would know
You
that
can't
off by
speak to one
heart.
side, not the other, in a bench.
No, I'm not being.
Go,
I would I would sit down with my client, an hour before, the court trial, and I would say, right, are you 100% clear with your testimony? Do you want to, let's reread over it so we know it. So when you get asked questions on it, which, they will, especially with him being a police officer as well, where's his pocketbook? Why is he not looking through his notes from the day? They are given.
You're not allowed to look at notes while on the stand. However, probably just maybe 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
the standards for writing a police report have changed,
Right.
specifically for this reason.
Right. Okay.
Because there was too much story going in and not enough facts.
such and such was with certain blah blah blah, class 2 firearm found. You know, that's all you need to do. You just need to put the facts in. You don't need to say, well, I was on highway. You know. Well, obviously you need to put where you were.
Right, location, but yeah, all
Lo-
the other stuff.
You know, we don't need to know that a purple fucking dinosaur ran past you whilst you were doing it.
So I think what Mr. Roberts was trying to do was to catch Mr. McLean out by rephrasing the question several times, and that's where he caught him.
Yeah.
However, I do not believe that he quote unquote perjured himself on the stand, because that needs to be a blatant lie.
Yeah. That needs to be like, yeah, they said that they consented to a search, and then literally on that stand saying no, they didn't consent. But then that's when you go down the route of a legal search.
Mr. Roberts, you're going to be held in contempt of court.
Perfect.
Oh.
Why?
If
We'll hold him in contempt after the case.
Spicy.
after
Wait.
Or
Is that
we'll.
Teddy being held in contempt of court?
Yes.
I mean, with logic like that, it's not hard to understand why I got held in contempt.
We're gonna get another one.
Yeah, just do it now. Just tell him he's getting one charge. Oh, we did. All right.
So what does that mean then?
He gets a fine.
goes and deals with.
Oh right, okay.
We'll do that. Let's just.
Oh, but like Teddy's going to care about a fine. He offered to drop me 66 grand into my hands.
We'll continue though. Mr. Roberts, we'll deal with that at the end of the trial.
Perfect. Thank you, Your Honors. Permission to continue questioning Mr. McLean.
Yes, you may.
Mr. McLean, do you have or suffer any memory issues?
Oh my
No.
god. This guy's a jacket.
Do you suffer any vision issues?
No.
So on August 23rd, in your written statement, just for verification, you said you believe she consented to a search of her person. Is that correct?
Objection, asked and answered.
I'm asking for clarification, just so it's perfectly clear.
Your Honor.
Mr. Blackstone, you continue.
How many? How many people get to speak on that side?
All parties on each side can speak if they need to. So Ms. Roberts,
Jessica, you can speak too if you need.
Okay, Your Honor. This has already been asked and answered. He's just asking in a different manner.
I'm asking for the official record. Make sure that this is crystal clear.
Nothing's been stricken, Your Honor.
overturn. Mr. Roberts, you can continue.
So the exhibits that the prosecution referenced earlier show you clearly talking to another individual. That individual is named Tony Rogers. Is that correct?
I spoke to Tony Rogers, yes.
Okay. And I would estimate by all of the evidence that you were, I would say maybe 15,
Objection,
20
Your
yards
Honor.
away?
Objection, Your Honor. That's speculation.
How far away were you? I'll rephrase.
Okay.
How far away would you say you were when you were talking to Mr. Tony Rogers and Miss Serafina was being spoke to by the other officer?
Objection again, Your Honor. He's asking for speculation.
Give me one moment. Mr. White, can you come over here?
All right. All right. Could you just repeat the objection one more time for me?
He's asking for a speculation because without actually my witness knowing with a tape measure, how can he say for certain how far away he was? Again, the defense counsel's asking him to guess.
Okay, I'll rephrase.
All right, go ahead.
In Exhibit 7, Miss Serafina is standing at the back of a police cruiser. There is a gap, and Mr. Rogers is standing at the front of a black Accord. Is that correct?
Without looking at the exhibit, that sounds right.
So is that a yes or no?
Give me a moment to look at the exhibit then, sir. Which portion of the exhibit are you looking at? What timestamp?
Just look at a general layout, Exhibit 6 or 7.
Okay, now that I'm looking at the exhibit, sir, do you mind re-asking the question?
Yes. Miss Serafina was standing over by the police car towards, I would say, the rear of the police car. Is that correct? I'm asking facts.
I'm not answering. I'm reviewing the
No,
exhibit.
that's fine. No, that's okay. Yep.
She was standing towards the rear of my patrol car, towards the front of the troopers, yes.
Correct. And in that exhibit, do you see a gap between that vehicle and the black Honda Accord?
Yes.
Okay. And in that exhibit, do you see yourself?
Yes.
Do you identify yourself as being towards the front of that black Honda Accord?
Not towards the front of the Honda Accord, no.
Off to the side, but yet
Behind the
distantly.
Accord in front of the patrol car.
You're identifying
That's
yourself
what
as
I'm looking
behind the Accord?
Your Honor, objection. He's not making it clear to my witness at what portion of the video. He's not giving him an actual timestamp. That he's confusing my client, or he's confusing my witness.
Mr. Roberts.
In Exhibit 7, it is not a very long exhibit. Where do you identify yourself in position related to the Honda Accord?
In Exhibit 7, I am wherever the guy with the big words sheriff on the front of the vest say. That's where I am.
And that is not an answer.
Objection again, Your Honor. He's not giving a timestamp. The witness is clearly
referencing
moving.
a 30-second window on Exhibit 7.
For me, the exhibit is multiple minutes long, and I don't know where you're asking because I walk around.
Mr. Roberts, could you just specify for the
Yeah,
witness,
give me a
please?
minute. Let me get an exact timestamp.
All right.
Let's just pause it at 6:17.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay. At 6:17, where do you identify Miss Serafina in this piece of evidence?
She is the woman dressed in all black that is off of the rear passenger side bumper of the marked patrol car.
In this video, where do you identify yourself?
I am off to the front passenger quarter panel of the Crown Vic in the parking spot, dressed in the sheriff's uniform.
So, Your Honor, as you can see, there is a decent distance for Exhibit 7, paused at 6:17, between Mr. McLane here, the other officer, and Miss Serafina.
Objection, Your Honor. The defense is trying to say he's an otolaryngologist or a hearing doctor.
I claimed no such thing, Your Honor.
He's prospecting himself as in a point where he's trying to say that the witness could not hear. He's not a medical professional for hearing.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's something you can object to.
All right. Can we stick to, objections and then questions, please?
Sure.
Actual objections. Like the words for, otherwise it gets quite messy if we don't use the correct names. All right. Continue, Mr. Robert.
Okay. Were you speaking at a loud tone during that time, sir?
I do not recall.
Okay. So the other officer in the video was speaking at a medium tone. That is shown in the Exhibit 7. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what it is you're trying to get me to look at here.
If you look in the upper right-hand corner, you can clearly see that he is speaking at a medium volume.
I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
Your Honor, objection leading the witness.
Well, it's cross-examination, so lead-in is permitted, but so that's overruled. With this question,
at a medium volume, Your Honor.
I'd like you to rephrase it because the way you're phrasing it doesn't quite work. For
if you're looking at Exhibit 7, Mr. McLane, paused at 6 minutes, 17 seconds. Is the officer in that video speaking at a medium volume? Yes or no question?
I refuse to answer yes or no.
Your Honor.
I'll be happy to elaborate for the court or the counsel, but I'm not answering yes or no.
So we have a hostile witness that's refusing to answer questions.
Mr. Roberts, again, the way you're asking this question is not really permissible here. You're asking in a way which makes it unanswerable. As you cannot, it's not possible to.
Fine, I'll withdraw it. I withdraw the question.
Thank you. Proceed.
You perceive that you are a distance apart, sir?
Yes.
And as some people that are distance apart, do you sometimes struggle to hear things other people say?
Are you asking in this case?
I'm asking in this case.
No,
you
I
hear
did not
every
struggle to
word?
hear what they were saying.
Did you hear every word that they said? Yes or no?
I could hear them speaking.
You heard every word? Yes or no?
I do not recall.
Your Honor, this brings me back to my previous point where this individual said he believes he heard consent to search a person. This is not what my client gave. Did you physically hear yourself or give permission to search her person?
She gave consent for a frisk.
And was a frisk performed or was a search performed?
Objection, Your Honor. That's a compound question.
Was a frisk performed? Excuse me. Was a search performed?
After the frisk, yes. I did search the defendant prior to her being placed under arrest. Correction, after her being placed under arrest.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, defense. The court
Can I ask
is.
a rebuttal question?
I can't hear you. What'd you say, Mr. Hawkinson?
No worries, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Jeez, sorry, never mind. Would you like to redirect, or you guys? Or is the state good?
Bear with me one moment, Your Honor.
All right. Before you give your answer, the court is gonna call a very short 3-minute recess. For well, we're just gonna call a 3-minute recess. All right, and we'll resume after that.
Yes, Your Honor. After looking over it, we have no further questions.
All right, that's fine. There's still gonna be a 3-minute recess.
Beginning to see that it's yeah.
I fucking hate people.
Very professional.
Well, this room echoes, so you just have to be careful.
Yeah, give me a second.
It's a very echoey room.
It is.
Yeah, all right. What's up?
So I'm starting to see what, like, you know, the kind of things you can and can't.
All rise. The district court is back in session. The Honorable Mann still presiding.
All right. The Mr. McLane is done as a witness. I believe he's already sat down. Just to explain something as well, Mr. Mann is having a bit of a throat issue, so that's why I've been taking over objections more and speaking more. But he's still presiding and makes a final decision, etc. Anyway, moving on. Prosecution, would you like to call your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to call to the stands Trooper Ward.
Raise both of your hands for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Or stand.
Please stand.
May I approach the well, Your Honor?
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello there, Trooper Ward. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you?
I'm doing perfectly well. How long have you served the state police?
I'm going to say at least 6 months now.
Okay. During your time in the state police, do you know the difference between search and frisk?
I do.
Okay. On the 23rd day of August 2021, at the traffic stop in question, did you frisk the defendant?
Yes.
Did you find a weapon when patting down the defendant?
Yes, I found what was a firearm in her clothing from an outer body search, a pat down. For my safety, I pulled out, said weapon or firearm, whatever it may be, and found it to be a machine pistol.
Did the defendant give permission to frisk?
Yes. I distinctly remember after I had said to her, "Ma'am, do you have any weapons on you?" And then I re-elaborated the pat down. She said the word okay.
Okay. Does there need to be consent to frisk for the defendant?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. All right. Why would that be?
Because a frisk of someone's person, per the case law Teversione, is for officer safety. We frisk people for their firearms in entertainment to make sure they aren't going to pose a threat to the officer whilst they're in our entertainment. That frisk could consist of weapons such as switchblades, machetes, knives, guns.
Okay. And in Exhibit 1, is the item in that exhibit what you found on the defendant?
One moment, please. Indeed it is, sir.
Okay. And in Exhibit 4, is that the call you responded to?
One moment. Yes, it was.
Okay. And in Exhibits 5 through 22.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
It's the same thing. Is that you leaving your trooper vehicle? Or correction, is that you leaving the state police marked vehicle?
At the time, we were the Department of Public Safety, so yes, that would be me.
Okay. All right. No further questions, Your Honor. Oh, actually, my apologies.
No
Did
further
have-
questions, Your Honor, is what was stated.
Go ahead.
I will hold. Go ahead and ask, Your Honor.
Mhm.
Okay. Is exhibits 5 through 22 your body cam footage, Trooper Ward?
Indeed it is.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Defense, you may proceed to cross.
Absolutely. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm Teddy Roberts.
Fantastic.
You are Trooper Ward, is that correct?
Indeed, sir. Good to see you again.
I see you. So, on this the day, excuse me. Bit of a cough right now. August 23rd. Were you primary on this traffic stop?
No, I was the supporting unit whilst then Senior Deputy McLean made
It's a yes or no question.
No.
Okay, so you were not primary on this that day,
Mr. Ward,
correct?
could you speak up?
I am. Perhaps I need to move closer, maybe?
You need
Yeah,
to speak as loud as you can. Yep.
Yeah, I've been alerted that the camera cannot pick you up clearly.
How about
Yeah,
you?
speaking to the microphone, you'll know when you're speaking in it.
What about now?
Do you
Yes.
do you see
Yes,
that you're
I-
speaking in it? All
yeah,
right, fantastic.
Okay, my apologies, Mr. Roberts.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So for verification, just because we had microphone issues, you were not primary that day, correct?
No, it was not.
Okay. Do we still have a microphone issue? Everybody, we good?
It's great.
Okay, perfect. So, what would you say your role was that day in that traffic stop?
I was a supporting unit, supporting a member of the Sheriff's Department on a traffic stop.
Okay. So we are looking at, you've confirmed your body cam footage from the different exhibits. Did you clearly explain to my client that a frisk would involve you being able to see sort of all of the different things that were on her? Did you clearly explain this?
I asked her the question. To your question, sir, I'm going to answer it like this. I asked the question first, do you have any weapons on you I should know about, or something to that effect? At which point she declined a full body search, or I presume. At which point I then re-elaborated what my intentions were, which is an outer body pat down of a person, i.e. a frisk. So I would say so, yes. In a inferred way, yes. And then multiple times afterwards, once the firearm was discovered.
At any point was my client under arrest?
Once the firearm was discovered, and it was discovered to be an illegal firearm, yes, she was placed under arrest.
May I read something for you for a moment?
Of course.
So, per the law, convicted violent felon, identified as a convicted violent status upon individual to apply individual indefinitely to a first degree violent
Objection,
felonies.
Your Honor, arguing the law.
I'm not. This isn't law. This is just the definition of a convicted violent felon. Just clarifying that this is the definition as the state recognizes for a convicted violent felon.
Is this going to supplement a question, or?
Yes, it is.
All right, you can proceed.
Okay. Let me read that a little more clearly. I think I was having some voice issues there, okay? The definition of a convicted violent felon. A convicted violent felon's status upon an individual will apply to an individual indefinitely, as first-degree violent felonies cannot be expunged without a hearing by a justice or judge. That is the definition. Sorry, also having throat issues again. At any point in there, does that state that they are subject to any kind of frisk, search, or anything indefinitely upon an encounter with police officers?
In that paragraph, no, sir.
Okay. So in your police SOPs, does it state that that's what you are supposed to do? Frisk and search?
In our policy, sir?
Yes.
In our policy, it mentions nothing about that, sir. However, I'd like to add that the role of law enforcement is ever evolving and ever changing, so some leeway is given.
It was kind of a yes or no question. In your policy, does it say, upon stopping a violent convicted felon, you're required to do a search of their person or a frisk?
I see. Without referring to the policies once again, I would say no, but it is not uncommon.
So, the police SOPs do not currently dictate that a violent convicted felon is required to have a frisk or search upon stop. Is that correct?
I can't speak for all the departments, sir. I can only speak for my own. And as it stands, according to the
It's a yes or no question, sir.
And again, sir, I can't answer for every single department. I can only answer for my own.
Answer for your department.
I don't recall, sir. I'd have to refer to the SOPs.
Do SOPs trump legal laws in this state, sir, that you're aware of?
No, sir. SOPs are not law. However, they are guidelines set out to make sure that law enforcement officers maintain their duties within the law.
Elaborated quite a lot. I just want to be clear. Your current SOP, as far as you're aware, does not dictate
Objection,
a
Austin
mandatory.
answered.
It wasn't answered.
All right. I'm going to ask you move on, not based on the objection, but because it does not matter in the slightest what the SOPs say to this court case. So I ask you move on to a different question.
It does matter. As previously stated, the SOP and the standard operating procedure, Your Honor, is to frisk a violent convicted felon, which is what we talked about earlier.
Again, the SOPs have no bearing on the law. They, which is
I understand they have no bearing on the law. I understand that, Your Honor. But they do have a bearing on my client, who was illegally searched frisked and searched against her will simply because of this status.
All right. I'm still going to ask you to continue with a different question, not related to the SOPs. Because
Mr. Roberts, you're saying something I cannot hear you, sir.
For every time you stop somebody that you deem as a violent convicted felon, do you frisk and search them?
Can you say that
Yes
one
or
more
no
time,
question.
please? Can you say that one more time, please?
Every violent convicted felon that you identify, if you stop them for a routine traffic stop, you search and or frisk them.
Do I search or frisk them?
It's a yes or no question. What?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm trying to hear the last part of your sentence, but it keeps cutting out. I'm not sure what's going on there.
For every violent convicted felon that you stop for a routine traffic stop, do you search and or frisk them?
I wouldn't say so, no.
Further questions?
Thank you. Prosecution, like to redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Oh, my apologies, Your Honor. I have to take a drink real quick.
No worries.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Trooper Ward,
Yes, sir.
did you have reasonable suspicion to search the defendant? Or my apologies. Let me rephrase that question. Did you have reasonable suspicion to frisk the defendant?
Yes.
Could you elaborate?
Certainly. While on a traffic stop, the driver primarily detains the driver as passenger, not so much. As she got out of the vehicle and she's standing next to me without any handcuffs on, this was the first interaction I ever had with the defendant, so I was not aware what she was capable of. When I saw, at the time, Senior Deputy McLane frisking the individual or the passenger, for my safety and his as well, and because I inferred from him frisking the individual that there may be firearms at work here, and there may be a history of firearms that needed to be established. I did a out-of-body pat-down of the female to verify that she didn't have any firearms on her. If she didn't have any firearms on her, then she'd been fine. But this is for officer safety in case she did decide to do something such as pull the firearm out and use it against an officer. There was only two of us there. There's two of them. So for my safety and that of my fellow Elio over there, a pat-down was necessary, and one was conducted.
No further questions, Your Honor.
I have one additional question, if permitted.
Does the state have any objection?
No, Your Honor.
You do not have any objection for him to ask the additional question?
Well, Your Honor, I mean, other than it was supposed to be my initial question, redirect, cross-examine and redirect. Not sure if anything else is supposed to happen after that.
No, it's
Why I
not.
requested.
It's not kosher. That's why I'm asking if you have any objection to it.
If we reserve the right to rebuttal, Your Honor.
I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Strike
So
it.
you do not want to?
Nope.
All right, that's fine. Mr. Ford, you may step down.
All right. Miss Serafina, this is where. Oh. I'm sorry.
All right.
I thought I was being a little.
Sorry about that. All right, we're gonna call the court back in session. Defense, would you like to call any witnesses?
Yes, I would like to call my client, Miss Serafina, to the stand.
All right, Miss Serafina, before you approach the stand, do you understand that if you decide to take up or to go on the stand as a witness, you waive your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
Yes.
Proceed.
Coming up here, turn to me and raise both of your hands for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Please stand right over there. Thank you.
Oh.
Just stand where you can speak in the microphone. You'll know when you're at it. Just...
Permission to approach?
Go ahead.
Hi, Miss Serafina. How are you?
I'm alright. How you doing?
Good. Hey, would you mind stating your name for the court?
Serafina Cifaretto.
Okay. Miss Serafina, I'm Teddy Roberts. We've met a number of times. Obviously, yes, I'm your defense attorney, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Miss Serafina, throughout this trial, you have been portrayed as a violent convicted felon. Have you ever committed a crime against any police officers?
Absolutely not.
Have you ever run or fled from any police officers?
Absolutely no. I have not.
Have you ever punched, assaulted, or committed absolutely any other crime against
Objection,
any
Your
police
Honor.
officers?
That's a compound question.
I will ask them individually.
Go ahead and rephrase it the way you did.
Have you ever punched an officer?
No, sir.
Have you ever stabbed an officer?
No, sir.
Have you ever used any weapon at all against a police officer?
No, sir. I have not.
Have you ever run a police officer over?
No, sir.
Have you ever done anything disrespectful to any police officers or the police force?
No, sir.
On that given day, Miss Serafina, what were you pulled over for?
Skipping a red light in the south side.
Miss Serafina, could you tell me on that given day, where were you going?
I was going to
Objective, Your Honor. Is that not narrative?
It'll be really.
Go for it.
I can't hear what the rebuttal was. Mr. Roberts, can you repeat it?
It's relevant to the case, and it will literally be a 2, maybe 3 word answer.
Your Honor, the rebuttal to that was I asked a similar question to McLane, but it's still he was trying to object to it.
And
on that given day, I'll rephrase.
That's fine.
On that given day, were you headed to pick someone up?
Yes, sir.
Where was this person?
The prison.
Did you commit any other traffic infractions that day?
No, sir.
On that given day, who was with you?
Mr. Teddy Roberts. Sorry, not Teddy. Mr. Tony Rogers. My apologies.
Mistake. Similar name. On that given day, was Mr. Tony Rogers searched?
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Tony Rogers consent to it?
Yes, he did.
On that given day, were you informed of what a Terry frisk entails?
No, sir.
On that given day, were you unclear of what your rights were in terms of this Terry frisk?
Yes, sir, as it had never happened to me before.
As stated, was it explained to you properly?
Absolutely not.
After you were Terry frisked, were you read your rights?
I don't. Not until we were on the way to the jail, to the police station, after I had been arrested.
After you were Terry frisked, did they fully search you?
Yes.
And they fully searched you before you were read your rights?
Yes, sir.
Could you please identify the officer that searched you?
The gentleman over there to the left.
At this point, I have no additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Would you like to cross the prosecution?
Gladly, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Hello, Miss Serafina.
Hi there.
My name is Harvey Blackstone, State Prosecutor. It's a pleasure to meet you.
You as well.
I do need to ask you, did you tell the court, as opposed to exhibits 5 through 22, that you were not told what the pat down, better known as Terry Frisk, was, or what it entailed, I should say?
I was not fully explained what all they would be able to see on my person.
No further questions, Your Honor. The defendant has clearly perjured herself, as it was clearly explained to her in exhibits 5 through 22 what the pat down would entail.
Objection. That's actually not true at all. Per exhibit
She
7,
was-
per exhibit 7, she literally consents. She does not consent to a search and was not told until after what the Terry frisk entailed.
Your Honor, if I may object to that, before Trooper Ward did pat her down, he explained what a pat down would be. He explained it was going to be a full outer body search of her clothing, feel for her clothing. That was clear instructions to
All
her.
right, that's enough. I don't see what we're objecting to. We're just saying things now. We're not even asking questions. So, is this a motion or what's going on here?
Like the motion to disqualify the defendant, being she has purged herself.
All right. Me and Judge Mann are going to discuss this motion quickly. Please return to your seat.
Yes, Your Honor.
If she purged herself, McLane surely did. Good God.
Mm-hmm.
Good God.
Ask you to keep your voice down, Mr. Roberts.
This shit is spicy, man.
I'm eating chicken. This is a good show.
Be hanging by the gallows at the end of this fucking thing.
Off for his
Yes,
head.
sir. Yes, sir. I was looking for where you are. Yeah.
I gotta look at this exhibit again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Hey, Tony. How's it going? How's it going?
Okay, so the court is going to deny that motion, and we will continue with the trial. Is there any cross redirection that needs to happen, Mr. Roberts?
Yes. Mission to approach?
You may approach.
For the record, Miss Serafina.
Yes.
On that given day, was it made directly clear to you, if they Terry frisked you, what all they would be able to see?
No, sir.
Okay. On that given day, were your rights violated for illegal search and seizure?
I absolutely felt that they were. You've given me the entire situation.
Miss Serafina, since that time, have you been involved in any violent altercations with the police?
No, sir.
Further questions?
Does the prosecution need or wish to read?
That's not how that works.
No. All right. Miss Serafina, you are to go back.
Thank you.
Okay. Does the prosecution or defense need time to prepare closing statements? Or have
I got
Yes,
my
Your
closing statement ready.
For prosecution, Your Honor, if we could be given a short recess for that.
Okay. We will go into recess for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Catching some filtered fresh air.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Okay, the court is back in session. Are both sides ready to proceed?
Absolutely.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, the prosecution, you may begin with your closing statement.
Yes, Your Honor. If I may approach the well.
You may.
Okay. Your Honors and people of the court, the defense has tried to subvert the thinking and paint a picture of what frisk not being legal in this situation. However, through the testimony of Mac McLane and Trooper Ward, they clearly said for the situation that it was necessary for their safety, as by Trooper Ward's statement, for his safety of him and Mac McLane, since they were just two officers on that scene and there were two defendants and there were two people present at that traffic stop. The prosecution, through the evidence, including the testimony and video evidence, exhibits 1 through 22, has proven that a legal frisk, Terry versus Ohio, for the officer's safety was carried out. Mac McLane did clearly ask in the traffic stop if the defendant had any weapons in the vehicle, which she said no. But as clearly later defined to her, there was on her person. The officer, even though he did not have to, sought permission to frisk, which was given by the defendant, as the body cam shows. The officer gave a basic understanding of what the frisk would entail. The frisk revealed a weapon in question, a machine pistol, in the defendant's possession. The results are plainly seen in evidence and video provided, again, exhibits 1 through 22. The fact that the defendant is a convicted violent felon added to charges of which the prosecution has proven guilty beyond a doubt of all charges. Your Honors, I'd like to also state in this situation too, once again, it was clearly defined to her what the pat down or Terry frisk would entail. That is all.
Permission to move freely?
Go ahead.
So what we have here today is a gross abuse of power by the police department. My client, while she may allegedly obtain a title of violent convicted felon, has no history of any violence towards the police. None whatsoever. She has not harmed an officer. She has not threatened an officer. She has not shot, maimed, stabbed, dismembered, any of these things.
Serafina?
Towards an officer.
Serafina?
My client was pulled over for a simple traffic stop. A simple traffic stop. She failed to yield
Serafina
at a red light
Cifaretto.
in a vehicle she owns while not speeding. The court heard today Exhibit 7 is a popular exhibit, but it clearly shows she did not consent to a search, and while she did consent to a frisk, it was not explained to her exactly what that entailed until after, which is a clear violation of her Fourth Amendment rights. while she obtains or allegedly has the title of a violent convicted felon, she is not violent towards any police officers. The fact that they pulled her over and did this out of their, I will use air quotes here, safety, is an abuse of their power. They had no reason to believe that she was any way, shape, or form going to harm them. Defense would ask that the court find these charges to be completely off base. As a result, my client was simply driving a car to pick a friend up. Per her testimony, and was pulled over for running a red light. She did not use that gun, and nowhere, any point in time, is there any GSR tests that show that she used that gun. Nothing points to her being any threat in any of the, as the prosecution likes to admit or exhibit 1 through 21. None of it shows at any point in time, was she combative? Was she a threat? They simply got a little scared, called in a secondary officer, was not primary on it, who did a poor job explaining exactly what his job was and what he was going to do. And as a result, my client is here in court today. We have stated that nowhere in any of the definitions of a violent convicted felon does it say that they are search on site. We've shown that. There's no laws stating this. We had a few officers. God love them. They have a tough job. But we're a bit of a hypochondriac in this situation. And, pun intended, jumped the gun. At this point, I have no further statements.
Okay, the court will go into recess for 10 minutes.
All rise.
Over there.
The District Court of San Andreas is now back in session with Judge Mann still presiding.
Okay, so this was a tough decision. So in the state of San Andreas versus Serafina Cifaretto, this court finds Miss Cifaretto guilty on all charges. And we will move into sentencing as she was released on recognizance.
Absolute bullshit, Your Honor.
Ms. Roberts, please hold your tongue. Okay, so how does the state wish to proceed with sentencing?
Full-time max.
Your Honor,
fa.
full time and full fine.
I got it.
And that would be?
Oh, my apologies, Your Honor.
45 months.
Not even ready.
Judge, man, this is fucking crock of shit.
Please, Mr. Roberts, hold your
I
tongue.
agree.
Order in the court.
Apparently everyone that gets pulled over gets fucking searched
Okay,
now.
Mr. Roberts. Bailiff, can you please take him back to the cells?
Get him.
All right.
Right this way,
Absolute
Mr. Robert.
fucking dog
Okay,
shit.
hands behind your back.
Love you, Teddy.
This way. This way, sir.
You weren't going to have a fair trial no matter what the fuck happened.
I kind of figured.
I think my handcuffs broke, actually.
All right, Your Honor, that would be 60 months and a fine of $4,500.
4,500?
Yes, Your Honor.
No,
for
is
her.
that including the failure to appear?
Oh, no, it is.
We are
But
not going to
there
apply
is
that
no
charge. There is that charge is not being applied.
Okay.
As this was appealed, it's not being applied. How does the defense want to proceed with sentencing recommendations?
Could I have a short recess, Your Honor?
Again?
Can you speak up, Ms. Robertson?
Huh?
Asking for another recess.
Patterson, Your Honor.
Patterson, sorry.
For what?
What did you say? I can't hear you.
I believe there should be some time served.
Okay, so you were wishing for a time served?
At least some time served. Your
Okay.
Honor.
The court will go into a 2-minute recess to decide sentencing, and then we will come back.
Recess after recess, man. As soon as they started the court trial, they asked for a recess.
So fuck you.
Who's at that shake?
The judge at the blue pan. Or no, I think she might have
Time and
with the
final.
rich.
Yeah. Might want to check the end.
I didn't know Burger Shot was still open.
On the MDT or the code 2? Yeah, you need to look on the MDT. You need to clock in.
That's very common around here. It's kind of, no cops can ever get away with anything. It's pretty damn simple. No, you're good. So Serafina Cifaretto. Oh, Sarah.
Yeah, you're good to go in the back. All rise. The court is back in session with Judge Mann still presiding.
Okay. So with sentencing, we're going to give 15 months of time served. So that'll be 45 months. Miss Serafina will have to serve in Bolingbrook Penitentiary with a $4,500 fine that will need to be paid. This trial is adjourned.
Fucking ridiculous.
Done.
I'm going to be taking you into custody. Please put your hands behind your back.
No, right now.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
No worries. I'm going to be asking you to follow me.
Yeah, take
Can I
it
just-
gently. Yes, yeah. Go. I'm not going in your pockets.
You can have
All kinds of dangerous things in there.
a moment with her.